Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to Armor of God again. As always, I'd like to start the video by thanking all of you for being here with us, and hopefully you'll be edified with what we've put together for you here. And there are a lot of things about our Catholic Church that I'd like to share with all of you. And for any non-Catholic watching this video, I think this video will be helpful for you to learn something about the Church as well. But before that, let me share this with you from Father Joseph Iannuzzi that will absolutely drive the demons crazy, and it's something everyone should be thinking of doing more of every day.
To pray for sinners and offer up acts of reparation, combat the demons, knowing that their weak spot was offering up acts of reparation for the salvation of souls. That would drive them nuts. Because why? Because they would have to report back to Satan with an accounting, their chief devil, Lucifer, reporting that they have no souls to bring back. And what would Lucifer do? Torment them for their failed mission. So this howling is them knowing that they're going to be tortured by Lucifer for coming back empty-handed without souls.
And combating the demons, just like the clip of Father Iannuzzi there, I've prepared a few more interesting clips for all of you, but I'll release it in the next video. For this one, on the other hand, I'd like to share more about the Church. While I do occasionally watch videos of Dr. Scott Hahn, Trent Horn, Sam Shamoon, but if you've been here long enough, you must have realized I've never shared anything from anyone but Catholic priests here. And so please listen carefully to what Father Iannuzzi is saying here.
Always to a priest. That is their role. That's their responsibility. A layperson does not have the responsibility nor the graces of guiding a soul as a priest because he's not ordained. He doesn't have that anointing, and he does not have that authority. And yet, without dismissing anything of the importance of the roles of the lay people in the world that sustain the Church, that are the foundation of the priesthood. You cannot priest without parents, right? Without diminishing their role in the least, we have to accentuate the importance when it comes to spiritual direction of the role of the priest, well over that of the layperson, precisely because of this authority given to him by ordination. Doesn't make him better than the other person. It's simply for the sake of your soul, assures you that you are no longer responsible for your choices once the priest tells you what to do. You cannot say that same thing with a layperson who tells you what to do. You cannot. But you can do it with a priest. So let's suppose you go to confession and the priest tells you to do something that's wrong, and you do it. God will not hold you responsible for that wrongdoing. He will hold the priest responsible. This cannot be said for any layperson. So if you go to a layperson and ask him for advice, he tells you what to do and you do it, God will hold you responsible for that, not that layperson. You see the difference? Now, I'm telling this to you for your own spiritual betterment, not for mine. This doesn't help me in the slightest. I'm just saying this for your sake, because I see out there many lay people not even going to priests. And this is very dangerous because, as I mentioned at the outset, they start to predict and say this, go to this safe refuge. On this year, this is going to, and it never happens. It's always a failure. And people lose valuable money investing in these things only to fail. And they lose valuable graces by not investing wisely the graces God gives them where they should be vested.
For the next clip is about receiving the Holy Communion, and those who are in a state of mortal sin cannot receive the Holy Communion. For the non-Catholics watching here, let me just briefly explain what it is that makes a sin mortal. Well, in order for it to be that way, 3 conditions must be met. It must be a sin whose object is grave matter. It must be committed with full knowledge, and it must be done with deliberate consent.
If you find yourself in the state of mortal sin, you are not to receive Holy Communion unless you first go to sacramental confession. However, the Church's Code of Canon Law states that if you are together, let's say at a celebration, be it a marriage or a funeral, and everyone's going to communion, and you're in the state of mortal sin, and you can't go, your not going will incriminate you in the eyes of others. In other words, other people will say, aha, that person didn't go. They probably did something wrong. That's why that person's not going. The Church's Code of Canon Law says to avoid recrimination, you may make a perfect act of confession with contrition, receive communion, though you are in the state of mortal sin, make a perfect act of contrition, receive communion, and the first opportunity you have, go sacramentally to confession. And that is legit. You can do that. This is the Church's Code of Canon Law. Now, better not to be in mortal sin, of course, granted. But I'm just saying that's the Church's giving you that opportunity. Okay? I'll read it to you here. A person who is conscious of grave sin is not to celebrate Mass or receive the body of the Lord without previous sacramental confession unless there is a grave reason and there is no opportunity to confess. I gave you an example. In this case, the person is to remember the obligation to make an act of perfect contrition, which includes the resolution of confessing as soon as possible. Okay? Now, why does God place so much importance and emphasis on receiving him in the Eucharist? And why does he say it causes him so much agony when we don't, when we could? Because of John's Gospel. Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life. St. Paul urges us to examine ourselves before we receive the body and blood of Christ, right? So the idea is never to neglect Holy Communion. Always approach him in the state of grace. To go as often as you can. Certainly you're not obliged to go daily, but you are every Sunday, once a week. I do Mass every day, but that's a personal commitment I made to the Lord one-on-one.
And for the last clip of Father Iannuzzi is another good one for us all to remember and reflect upon.
Always obey your confessor. Always, always, always. Why? Because there is a certain guarantee of guidance on the part of the Holy Spirit through the sacrament of holy orders, beginning with the papacy and working its way down through the episcopacy to the presbyterate. Now, I make the distinction between the hierarchical church and the lay church because we are both one body, but we have different roles, different functions that must be respected. So a priest is not going to parent a parent on how to raise their children when it comes to what disciplines to impose, what enjoyments to permit, etc. That's the parent's job, not the priest's. Nor is the parent to tell the priest how to teach theology. That's the priest's job. So they have different roles, okay? Does this mean that priests are superior to parents, that parents are superior to priests? No, but this is our human way of thinking. The point is, there's a lack of humility here on the limitations of our own roles of authority in the church. We have to be humble to know where our limits extend to, and if they should exceed them, we should stop. Some that are pushing in the far left, the liberals, the woke culture, those do not want any hierarchy. They prefer to take matters into their own hands and guide the future of the world and of religion in their own terms. That's a completely progressive movement, has nothing to do with orthodoxy. And yet, we find, ironically, among certain conservative groups in the Catholic Church, this progressive liberal approach of taking matters into their own hands without the authorities in the church and saying, we will now take over because the hierarchy is going to hell in a handbasket, so we must take matters in our own hands. And what happens? They fail every time.
And for the second part of this video, I'd like to share a couple of things that I came across on the internet with all of you. The first one, it appears that Russell Crowe is still not done with exorcism-related movies as he is set to appear in the movie The Exorcism this coming June 7th. And a quick look at the film trailer already tells me all I need to know. Another typical Hollywood exorcism movie. But in any case, in light of that, I'd like to share something from Msgr Stephen Rossetti regarding the reality of exorcism. And according to him, every time beginning the formal rite of exorcism, he would pray in a firm voice, I invoke the full authority of the keys of St. Peter, and I command the demons to leave. And the reaction was immediate and intense. Clearly, the demons recognized the church's authority and were reeling at the mention of it. Msgr Rossetti talks about this because there are some who came to an exorcism expecting the priest to read arcane, mysterious prayers that have a kind of magical power to them. But if these people actually read the rite of exorcism with those magical expectations, they will likely be disappointed. The rite of exorcism is simply a series of prayers, albeit of ancient origin, refined and tested over hundreds of years, which are full of scriptural references, invoking the power of God and Jesus to cast out the demons. Take this for example. The imperative prayer in the new rite includes the following: I command you, of this world, acknowledge the power and strength of Jesus Christ, who defeated you in the desert, overcame you in the garden, despoiled you on the cross, and rising from the tomb, transferred your spoils into the kingdom of light. Experience in exorcism shows that the devil has a particular revulsion in recognizing how Christ overcame him, and he does not like to be reminded of his defeat. There is no great mystery to the prayers in the rite of exorcism or their meaning, but to miss their power over the prince of darkness would be to miss the source of their true efficacy. The power does not come from some magical incantation. Rather, Jesus Christ, truly human and divine, has conquered the evil one and has given to the church his power to cast out demons. And it's important to note that Msgr Rossetti regularly reminds new exorcists in training, do not search for some special prayer that will magically cast out the demons. The great weapon against the devil, which is weapon given to exorcists, is the power of Christ in his church. The core of an exorcism is the church's formal rite wielded by a priest given the proper authority from the bishop, and so never doubt it. And so I thought, in light of Russell Crowe's new movie The Exorcism, in which a lot of people will be watching because there are a lot of horror movie fans out there, and after that piece from Msgr Rossetti that I've just shared with you, I think it's a good idea to share a couple of clips from Father Vincent Lampert, as well as Father Carlos Martins here regarding that very subject. And for this one, I'll share the clip of Father Lampert first, where he talks about the demons hiding from the exorcists.
The devil certainly knows those who are working to defeat him. And usually in the case when an exorcist walks in, the demon will actually try to hide, so to speak. Demons don't really want to be in the spotlight, because when they're in the spotlight, when they're manifesting, then the battle against them can take place. So oftentimes they may kind of retreat, so to speak, meaning there's still that attachment to the person, but the manifestations are not there, because the devil would want the exorcist to believe that either the person is not truly possessed or that the demon has retreated and is no longer manifesting in this person. And so we might even, a good way to look at it would be that in an exorcism, a demon is commanded to return that which it has stolen, namely a person created in the image and likeness of God. And the way that they're forced to return that person is to cast them into the light of Jesus Christ. So they would want to retreat to the shadows, so the battle against them would not begin.
And the second one is from Father Carlos Martins. I think if you listen to what he's saying here more carefully, the way you watch those exorcism movies after this will be significantly different.
So the thing to understand is, if a demon is present in somebody, they may not be possessed. You know, there's different grades of demonic hold that people can get themselves in. But what we're talking about is within a body, within an individual, that there is now a spirit that is not their own, that is present alongside theirs. And in order to understand the dynamic here, we need to understand what a human being is. A human being is not a body and a soul. It's not a body with a soul within it. We are bodies who are souls. We are ensouled bodies, if you will. So it was never in God's plan for there to be a separation between the body and the soul that occurs at death. That was never part of God's plan. And so we are in integration. There is no point, there's no dividing line between where your body ends and your soul begins. Right? That would be a fake artificial distinction. When you die, there is that separation, and it's definitive. We can see. We look at a dead body. This person is not here any longer. This is the shell of who they were. So when a spirit is present, he doesn't replace the soul of the person, but he can take over the animation of the body. And this is part of the mystery of God's creation. He created humans to be capable of possessing more than one spirit inside them, right? To be capable. This, in a sense, it's not surprising. Paul, in his epistles, identifies over and over again how we are members of Christ's body. We are limbs on the body of Christ. We're body parts on that body. And so what that means is Christ's spirit enters into us. And his spirit is exactly what we receive at baptism. We receive the same spirit of Christ. The spirit of God enters into us. That spirit is what makes us holy. That spirit is what generates within us the good actions that we're called to do. That spirit leads us, it guides us, it counsels us, it informs us, teaches us, and so forth. But it is possible for an evil spirit to enter inside us. It's possible. And even if he's not inside us, he can be around us. And so let's make another distinction so that we can get to a proper understanding, because that's what we're working towards. The devil is a fallen angel. So he was created as an angel, same with all of the demons. They are fallen angels. But an angel is a being, is a spirit that has no body. So an angel is a reality, an intellectual reality. It is a spirit. Each angel is a person, but it is a person without a body. And so there is no physical limitations upon them. What does this mean? Well, an angel doesn't travel. It has no need to travel. It doesn't have a body. Therefore, it's not limited by space and time. So an angel, any angel, your guardian angel, is just as present to you as he is to the planet Pluto, as he is to the farthest recess of the universe, to the bottom of the ocean, to the highest mountain. And he is present in all of those locations simultaneously, because all of them are equally available to him as any other.
Anyway, before we get to the end of this video, St. Pio Foundation recently released 10 never-before-seen photos of the saint presented at the Vatican. What's interesting about these photos is that the photographer said that the first time he tried to photograph Padre Pio during the celebration of Mass, he got annoyed and asked for the Carabinieri to come and arrest him, in which he later went to see Padre Pio after the celebration to ask his forgiveness. It's also interesting to note as well that there was a great mistrust in the Vatican towards him back then, whom some accuse of being an impostor. But despite all the attacks against him, Padre Pio was a mystic, always obedient to the Church. He shows that holiness also means accepting decisions that may seem difficult and incomprehensible. And Pope John Paul II put an end to the debate by beatifying Padre Pio in 1999 and canonizing him in 2002. There was a lot of opposition to him within the Church, and if it had not been for Pope John Paul II, Padre Pio wouldn't have been made a saint. Well, then I think that is all for this time. As always, I hope all of you have learned a lot from this video, and remember, if there's any feedback or suggestion, please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, for those of you who'd like to support our works, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contribution, and prayer. And until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy, and may God bless you.